Hey, hi, and welcome. All right, let's get into this. News photographers. Now, some people think again you can only become a wedding photographer. You can only sell photos through stock agencies and stuff like that. But yeah, you can still uh, do photography for news. The case of the $500 groundhog. Let me tell you that story. I was walking through a park one day and I took a picture of this groundhog that was quite friendly. He would come right up to you. He was kind of extorting you for food. He'd tap you on the toe type of thing, kind of like feed me, feed me, feed me. There's a groundhog tax to walk through this park. So, people were feeding this groundhog or whatever, and I'd feed him or whatever. And he would just sit there and you could take photos of this groundhog all day. Now, I get home, I'm like, hey, these are pretty good photos of the groundhog, and I'll put a photo of the groundhog in here somewhere. And I didn't think anything of it. The next day, what do I see in the middle of the newspaper? Well, my groundhog. He's right there. And knowing the size of the shot, after talking to some of the editors, this is back in 2003, 2004-ish, right? And I talked to the editors of the Citizen, and it was in the Citizen or the Sun. I can't remember which one I talked to, but anyway, one of the editors was telling me that the way they priced their photos was it depended on like a cover shot could be from a few $100s. Usually, this is a typical cover shot of the front page was $1,500 if you got that shot, to infinity depending. So let's say there was an event going on, you took a picture of an event, and a million people took a picture of this event. They just happened to choose yours. Well, here, take $1,500. And you say, no, I want more for the photo. Okay, we're going to get the next guy. Click. That type of thing. And you would email your photos directly to the editor, and half the time they would never even see them. They would just take, because they're on deadline, so it's like as soon as they find a photo, that's good enough. It's kind of like playing the lottery a bit. So you can get like $1,500, but let's say you got a barnstormer biplane upside down going through a fire hoop while high-fiving a chipmunk that's wearing, on roller skates, that type of shot. Well, that shot might be worth $10,000 because it's not something everybody's going to have. You've got exclusivity there, or kind of like what you see with these, celebrities with wardrobe malfunctions, as they call them. The guy who gets that shot or girl who gets that shot can sell that shot usually, kind of in an extorting way to make money off that. The paparazzi, we won't get too much into the paparazzi. I think they just make money on other people's misery, that type of thing. But this groundhog, okay, which I thought nothing of, never thought to send it in to the editor whatsoever. And they do get annoyed if you send in junk to them. So you look at a groundhog, the last thing you're ever going to think of is that this groundhog picture is worth money. Well, just from at the time, the size of this groundhog picture would have been a minimum of $500 shot. $500 for a picture of a groundhog. So you never know what things are going to be worth, that type of thing. And usually you could find newspapers. I know newspapers are now losing money, and a lot of them are going out of business and stuff like that. But you could still, sometimes they will still do open source if you have exclusive. Let's say you go to a small town event or something that their photographers were not able to actually capture. Well, then you got exclusivity to that event, so you could do a little article, a little write-up. But you got to, again, time is of the essence when on that kind of stuff. So you could tell them who, what, where, why, when. You could be basically, at that point, you become a bit of a reporter. But you can use your photography to get your way in the door, is what I'm telling you. So you can say, I was at this event, here's a photo. They pick one photo, away you go. And, life is good, right? And if they decide to publish the story, depending on where they publish the story, if it's on the first few pages or the money pages, the last few pages are not really worth very, very much, right? So it's the way it goes. But what I can tell you is that it is an option that you don't overlook it, because there is possibility there where you can make, some good money into it. But you might not make as much money as you want at first. So you might start into it as a hobby, more or less. But what you need to do is contact editors and say, hey, I'm a photographer. I know you can talk to millions of them. Most of these companies, like magazines and stuff like that, now what they do is they go to stock agencies like photo, because they don't have to deal with anybody. They just go to the agency, they pick out the photo they want, and they buy it. But that usually only works for, say, like magazines and stuff like that. It doesn't work as much probably for news, because news, you're trying to capture a story of something that's going on. So that way you have a little bit of an edge up there. You can look at, say, your local community and say, what events are going on in my community. Let's say in your community there just happens to be I don't know, a senior event or something like that. Well, go cover it. Go cover it. I guarantee you there's probably nobody else covering it, and that could be money for you using your camera. And also you might have to do a little bit of a write-up and say, yesterday there was this. If you wait like 3 weeks to send in the event, probably won't be due. You won't get anywhere. But what you could do is kind of have your article ready, kind of say, okay, well, we're covering this event. What points of that event do I want to cover? A real small write-up, maybe a paragraph, maybe two. Bring in the paragraph with the photo. Your odds are better that they might cover that story. They might take it, they might not. They'll usually pay you for it. You discuss all this stuff ahead of time. A lot of times editors are very busy and they don't like to talk to anybody because they get annoyed very quickly. So if you're just going to ask them why, and what, where, all that type of stuff, that won't get you far. You got to come at them with, hey, I got this story. Are you interested in it? And they'll say, what's in the story? Well, here, I'll send it to you. I'll send you the email, and what's in it for me, kind of thing. So you got to be businesslike about that. Have I ever sold anything to the newspapers? I don't recall doing it. I know I sent a lot of stuff into the Ottawa Citizen. Sometimes, like the editor would say, and this is editor advice that I'm giving you. This is what the guy told me. I just happened to get a guy that was quite patient with me, and he goes, it's great to send in photos, but if you're sending in photos and there's no story to the photo, usually it doesn't matter how great the photo is, they can't use it. So it was his idea. He says there's lots of, like, we've only got a budget for so many reporters, and they can only be so. They usually send them after the juicy things, but some of the community-based stuff nobody ever has time for. Here's my $500 groundhog. Now, he does make me a little bit of money. He does make me a little bit of money. That wasn't his money shot though, but that was one of them. That wasn't. I'll have to find the actual photo somewhere. A lot of these photos are back from 2003, whatever. This is all with my Nikon D100. I had various different lenses. Most of this stuff is telephoto here, but that type of thing. But anyway, getting back to things. So news photographer, you can become a news photographer, but the easiest way I think you would do it is you're going to have to become a jack of all trades. You're going to actually have to become a reporter. So rather than just take nice photos and send them in, let's say this bird, for example, that we just passed. Okay, well, this bird was finally discovered in our area, and you do a little bit of write-up on that. You might be able to sell it to magazines all over the place. So always, editors are your friend, even some of the hostile ones. And some of them will say, and you'll tell, like, within the first few seconds of the conversation whether they're annoyed with you or not. But anyway, keep trying. It's a good opportunity. You might not get rich out of it, but you could be something in there for you. All right, have a great day.